For those of you who don't know me, my name's Natalie Ford. I'm the founder and CEO of Enchanted Academy for Love, and I help strong women find lasting love in 90 days. So today I'm here to talk about the challenges that strong women face in relationships and the type of men that we typically go for, which are not good for us, and the sort of men that I believe we should be going for. And I'll speak to the reasons why and what you're going to get out of that. So just moving some props that I actually no longer need. So the challenges that strong women tend to face are that typically we are very powerful, very capable beings, and we certainly don't need to have a man in our life, but we want one, right? Everybody generally wants to find love. We want to find somebody to create like a life with, to journey with, to have adventures with, to have fun with, to support us in, our softer moments, and for us to support them and for us to grow as well. Those of us that are on a really conscious path, you'll recognize that you feel like you've healed all of your pieces until you get into relationship, and then you realize, oh shit, I haven't healed. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's still waiting for me, because it's only when we're in intimate, close relating that a lot of our deeper wounds, like a lot of our parental wounds, come up. So by all means, you can journey solo, and it's great to do so, and it's a lot of fun. But ultimately, to really experience true intimacy, deep intimacy, and to really see yourself reflected in another, you need to be in a relationship for that to truly happen. Okay, I'm having some technical blips go on. Bear with me. What is going on here? Okay, I don't know. It seems to have settled down. So some of the challenges that strong women face, I mean, drop me some messages in the comments, tell me, as a strong woman, what challenges have you faced in relationships? Do you feel met in relationships? Do you find that you're able to find partners who can fully meet you in your power, as well as hold your softness, men that are able to communicate with you, men that are reliable and that show up and that don't ghost? Tell me, what is it that you struggle with in relationship, and I'll make sure that I speak to those points. So things that I have found in relationship that I have struggled with is primarily in the beginning, I couldn't find men that could meet my power. So I found myself being drawn to men who are softer. And what I mean by soft is men who, like, they're very much in their people pleaser archetype. They struggle to say no. They struggle to speak their truth. They're more focused on keeping you happy than actually building a true, honest, intimate relationship that's going to last. Because in any relationship, you need for there to be honesty, and you need for there to be difficult conversations to be had. Because one of the things that can only be built through difficult conversations, through facing challenges, is secure attachment. So if we end up in relationship with the people-pleasing men who are afraid to stand up to us, afraid to say no, afraid to speak their truth, then we never really get exposed to those opportunities for secure attachment to be formed, because those only come through having empowered, secure conversations where both of you are in your truth, both of you are expressing your true needs, your true wants, your yeses and your nos. And it's through overcoming the obstacles that are navigated through these conversations that we actually learn to experience difficulty in relationship and then overcome it, which is where the secure attachment is built. So when we date men who are not able to do that for us, there's a number of things that play out. One, we don't feel met in our power. It feels it feels like we can walk over these men. It feels maybe nice in the beginning because they do have some beautiful qualities that I will speak to. But the negatives are that it sort of throws us into a place of feeling like there's no boundaries in the container. Because if we're not met by someone who can actually uphold their boundaries, then basically we can do whatever we want. We can walk all over them, and there's no structure to hold the container. And we can feel that energetically, and it's unsatisfying. Now, some of the reasons why we're drawn to these softer men, the men who, you know, are in their people pleaser, are yes men, they also come with beautiful qualities. Like they're typically very connected to their emotions. They really know how to meet us on an emotional level. That's really beautiful. And I know some people have been triggered by the use of my language around this event. I want to be really clear. Like, I am all for men having and expressing emotions. Like that's a human fucking need, right? That's part of a human experience. Where I use the language soft is in the inability to stand up for oneself, the inability to hold boundaries, to say your no, and to actually keep your power in a difficult conversation so that you can be heard, so that your viewpoint can be put across. This is what I term soft people, right? Men or women. I've just been targeting the men because I'm talking about strong women in polarization here. So these softer men do have access to their emotions. They're able to hold space for us. They're, you know, they're typically very cuddly. They're very physically affectionate. Those are all really delicious qualities. And we are typically drawn in to relationships with those men because of those things, because we're like, oh, wow, he can really hold my emotions. He can meet me on this deeper level. And, you know, he's touchy-feely. And it's almost like hanging out with a girlfriend. You know, you feel really met, but because it's like hanging out with a girlfriend, the sexual chemistry does not last. And the strength and power of the relationship does not last with these men. Over time, they do just become a girlfriend. And you don't want, if you're a heterosexual nature, you don't want to be in a lasting long-term relationship with one of your girlfriends. You want to be in that relationship with a man who can polarize you, where there's chemistry, where there's energy, where that's going to last and it's going to grow and it's going to get stronger. So the first trouble that strong women typically have is choosing the wrong men. So I've spoken about the soft men. The other men that we typically choose is the avoidant men. Now, the avoidant men often present as conscious alpha males and you could potentially even say that some of them are, but they lack the secure attachment. So avoidant men can typically show up in their power, in their drive. You know, they know where they're going in life. They've got a plan. They're generally very like academically and economically successful. You know, they've got careers. They may even have wealth. All these great things. However, they can't meet us on the emotional level. And every time things get deep, every time things get intense emotionally, they are going to run for the hills because that is their attachment style. So these men can meet potentially like 70, 80% of our needs. But if you are truly valuing yourself, you are going to be wanting to be in relationship with a man who can meet 95 to 100% of your needs, not 80. If you're at 80, you're settling. So the avoidant men, you can actually tell fairly quickly with the avoidant men or with men what their attachment style is. So relatively quickly, you will notice if a man is giving you quite a lot of space or if he is pulling you into intimacy. You will feel it. This is a sign. If a man is generally giving you a lot of space and generally keeping intimacy at sort of a comfortable distance, he is likely to be either secure or avoidant. You might need to see a little bit longer to see if it's avoidant or if it is just a secure attachment. And the men who want to draw you into intimacy, either they are going to be secure or they are going to be anxious. Again, sometimes it takes time to really unfold those patterns and see what's truly there. You want to be going for men who are secure attachment, but equally, you've got to know your own attachment style. If you still have a lot of, say, avoidant tendencies or a lot of anxious tendencies, then the chances are you are not going to be able to attract a securely attached man, because he is going to uphold his value enough and have his standards high enough that he's also going to want a secure attacher. And if you're not currently a secure attacher, you're not going to meet his standards. So another thing that strong women struggle with in relationship is that we really struggle to trust. The reason why we're strong is because we've been through a ton of stuff and we've had to do an awful lot of healing. We've had to navigate an awful lot of challenges by ourselves because we've had our trust broken, because we've been through difficult situations. And that means that we almost certainly have some very, very deep-rooted trust issues, which maybe we've worked through a lot on the surface. So maybe, you know, we're able to have trusting friendships and we're able to have trust in certain circumstances. But when you get into the really, really deep nitty-gritty, that is when all your trust stuff is going to surface. So if you recognize this in yourself, just drop me a message in the comments if you're like, hell yeah, I know myself in these trust issues. I see myself in these attachment patterns. Let me know what it is that you're seeing in yourself that I'm speaking to right now. So this trust piece is going to be difficult in any relationship, in all honesty with you. And I'll speak to the trust piece with regards to conscious alpha men later, because conscious alpha men is really the men who can meet us in our power and can meet us in all the ways. And I'm going to speak to that in a moment. And trust is paramount to be in relationship with a conscious alpha. So the fact that we might be able to trust in certain circumstances is good. You know, we've grown, we've done those pieces. And until we can trust and clear out the deepest parts, we will not be able to create the type of relationship that is going to truly satisfy us through and through and last forever, ultimately. So the next thing, another thing that, sorry, I just want to check that online, like things are, yeah, that's fine. I'm not seeing any comments. I know there's people watching on Facebook, and I can see a few people in the Zoom. You know, feel free to chat with me. This is interactive. I don't want to just be like talking to myself. So wherever you're watching, I'm on a number of platforms. Feel free to chat with me. Let me know like what it is that's resonating for you. What are your struggles in relationship? What do you struggle to find in the men that you're seeking? And then I can make sure that I'm speaking to those points. And if I'm already speaking to all of your points, then just put me a hell yes in the chat. So, and with strong women, the things that we also struggle with in relationship is truly relaxing and being in our feminine energy. We're very much doing focused. And this is another reason why we're quite drawn to the men who are in their feminine energy, because we see what they have that we don't have. We see, oh, wait, this person is really like, they're really chilled out. They're really able to, you know, relax and to take downtime and to, you know, have this slower pace of life, which we struggle to provide for ourselves. So some of us being in relationship with the softer men or the avoidant men is actually a projection from us of what we're actually desiring within ourselves. But you don't want those qualities in the man, you want them inside of you. So dating somebody who has those qualities, by all means, it gives you an imprint of what those qualities look like, but it doesn't solve the need inside of you that's trying to be met. So it's only ever going to be putting a plaster over a gaping wound. It's temporary. So we struggle to relax. We struggle to let our defenses down. And we do want a man to care for us, but we have been let down so many times. We really struggle to rely on people. For us to actually lean on somebody and to truly trust that they're going to be there for us, you know, that if I actually put all my weight on you, are you really going to hold me? Or are you going to drop me when you lose focus, or it suddenly doesn't get interesting for you, or, you know, something better comes up? So for us to be able to really truly lean on someone and trust completely that they're going to be there for us is a huge piece for us. It means that we become hyper independent and hyper self-efficient, which are actually trauma survival qualities, which are brilliant at helping us survive and helping us get through difficult situations, but they are actually obstacles to creating long-lasting relationships. Two more pieces that strong, independent women struggle with in relationship that I want to name is we may have an explosive temper. A lot of strong women take on way too much doing, generally are in perpetual overwhelm, and generally are struggling with feelings of low self-worth, where we feel as though when people say things to us, we take it very, very personally. A lot of these things, like the overwhelm and taking things personally, can lead to explosive temper, where everything just gets on top of us. We just feel like, I can't take anymore, and it comes out in an eruption. This is, again, a coping mechanism for survival and for stress. It's also a way that some people use to let off steam if you haven't learned how to channel your emotions in a more healthy, constructive way. And it is highly destructive for relationships. I can actually say that I have had in the past an explosive temper. I would argue that occasionally it's still here when I get really triggered in my deepest parts. And I will say that my explosive temper has been the most difficult thing for men to be with in relationship. I've been told, like, I've got all these amazing qualities, like I'm intelligent and I'm caring and I'm loving and I'm fun, and I challenge people in a good way, and I'm supportive, and I'm able to be there for people, and, you know, all of the things that you would want to have in a relationship. And yet this explosive temper can destroy all the trust that has been built. It makes your partner, it makes a man feel like he has to keep his defense up. It makes a man feel like he cannot drop into his softness with you. And it means that he feels like you're the enemy. And I'm going to speak more about why that is a major, major problem, other than the obvious that you don't want your partner to be your enemy. But there are deeper roots attached to that with conscious alphas that I'm going to speak to. So how do strong women go about finding relationships that actually work, given that we have these challenges, right? Because let me also speak to some of the positives about being a strong woman, because there are so many. I mean, I put out a number of posts about this, and somebody actually commented to me that strong women are, in quotes, the best women. Now, you could argue that we're also one of the most difficult archetypes to be in relationship with, but there's clearly something in that by being like strong and confident and charismatic, that is somehow perceived as, desirable qualities. We're often very career driven. We know where we're going. We're often highly skilled in many, many areas. Me personally, so if I speak for myself, by the time I was like in my mid 30s, I was earning like 100K plus. I was in a position of high authority. I was making a name for myself in the corporate world. I'd bought a house. I had all the things that society tells you you're supposed to have, in terms of society's like ladder of success. Like I was up there, I checked all the boxes, but I couldn't find a relationship that was satisfying for me and where the man wanted to stay, right? The relationships where the men did want to stay with me, I wasn't satisfied. And the relationships where I was satisfied, the men didn't want to stay with me. So I was like, okay, we've got like, like a lose-lose situation here. So I made it like my life's mission effectively to work out this conundrum as to how the hell do we do this? How do I, as a strong, passionate, like independent, charismatic woman, how do I find a man that really meets me and who I feel met by it as well, that where we're compatible and where we can make this long term? So I've spoken about the softer men, I've spoken about the avoidant men, and I've spoken about the reasons why they are not who we want to get into a relationship with. So let me speak about who we do want to get into a relationship with. Let me introduce the conscious alpha man. So the term alpha has, I've discovered, a lot more connotations attached to it. I've got technical things, bear with me. Cool, sorry, some technical issues popping up there. So if you have a negative connotation attached to the word alpha, please deattach that. Deattach, is that even a word? Disattach, unattach. You can help me out with whatever word it is that I'm detached. There we go, detached, thank you. Oh, goodness me, I love how words fail you when you need them. Detach whatever toxic connotations you've got to the word alpha, because those are not alpha men. A alpha is a natural leader. They are driven and confident. They are courageous and they take leaps of faith. They have very clear, high standards, which means that they don't budge on certain things. They're not willing to compromise on certain things because they know their standards. They know what they want in a relationship and they know that they're damn well worth it. So they might appear to be stubborn. They are action, dream, and goal oriented. They generally don't play by the rules, but that's not to say that they're a rebel. They operate very much on trusting their gut instincts. And importantly, in fact, so importantly, they are governed by their integrity, which is to protect and provide for their woman. Now, the very conscious part of this that I include in the men that I'm describing, the archetype I'm talking about, is that these men are able to communicate with ease and they are comfortable with their emotions. Sometimes when you meet a man, let me try that again. When you meet a conscious alpha man, it is not always obvious at the beginning that they are both conscious and alpha. Sometimes the alpha part can be more subtle, and sometimes the conscious part can be more subtle. But usually one or other of those is obvious from the beginning. So, for example, my partner, it was very obvious to me from the beginning that he was conscious. He knows himself. He's done his work. He communicates with so much openness, and he is comfortable expressing his full range of emotions. His alpha is actually more subtle, but it is definitely there. The more I got to know him, the more it became evident to me that he is absolutely an alpha. Other alphas may present more as alpha, you know, more obvious in their power and their strength, more obvious in their leadership, more obvious in the dominant energy with which they present. Their conscious aspects may be less well advertised, but as you get to know them, you will find out, can this man speak freely? Can this man express his emotions? Is he able to show up in an emotional capacity? If I express emotion with this man, does he freak out? Does he run away? Or does he sit there and hold his space while I'm expressing? How many of you have come across men like this? Like, put a message in the chat. Have you come across men like this that I'm describing? These conscious alphas? And if you have come across them, were you able to get into relationship with them? Tell me, like, what went on there? Because I came across a number of conscious alphas in my journey to now. I didn't know the term then. I didn't have the language for it, and that's fine. It's not necessary. But I couldn't make them stay. These men showed up beautifully for me, unbelievably. They were just powerful expressions of love and sovereignty. I'm just checking on Facebook because I'm not seeing the comments come through. Don't be shy. It's all good. Okay, great. So you might have come across these men and you might have been put off by their stubbornness. You might have been put off by their power if you were not fully in your power. You might have been put off because you have had a lot of trauma in your past and a lot of trauma in your nervous system, and you've been in relationship with people where there has always been a lot of trauma, a lot of drama, then you may find these relationships disturbingly easy. You may feel initially that they are boring because your nervous system is wired to seek familiarity. And if your familiarity has been chaos and drama, there is no chaos and drama with these men. There is teamwork. There is having each other's back. There is support, love, intimacy, camaraderie, fun, play, lightness, humor. a lot of delicious sexual chemistry, but there is not drama. These men will not tolerate drama. If there's drama, they will leave. Not immediately. They do have a pretty good tolerance for these things, but they will not stay long term. So how do you need to show up to be able to make a relationship with these men work? Alpha men need to be related to in a very specific way, a way that does not come naturally to strong women, which is why we typically can't make relationships work with them long term unless you know the secrets of how these men need to be related to. Much of our natural behavior as a strong, independent woman is actually quite repelling to these alpha men. But the good news is the behaviors which are difficult for these alphas are not our true behaviors. They are our defense mechanisms and our trauma responses. The core of who we are is exactly what he wants to be in relationship with. He just doesn't want to have to deal with all the defenses and all of the protection mechanisms which have been created from our history. He wants to be met with presence, with the here and now of who he is, not who everybody else has been in your life. So whilst relating with these men presents quite a few challenges for strong women, it only works in our favor to work through these challenges, because these are parts of ourselves that we are already trying to deconstruct. These are parts of ourselves that are not serving our highest good, and we know it. These are the controlling parts of us, the parts of us that think that we know best, the parts of us that want to lead all the time and never make space, never sit down and be in our feminine receptive energies long enough to allow somebody else to actually lead for us. It requires that our extreme hyper-independence must be sacrificed for the sake of becoming a team with our man. Now, this personally for me has been the biggest challenge and the most rewarding at the same time. Because I'm a strong woman, because I've been through a lot of shit, the same as we all have, I've developed a lot of strong defense mechanisms and protection mechanisms. And I find it hard to trust people in intimate relating. And letting down my hyper independence and becoming a true team with my beloved has been the most transformative work I've ever done. We need to learn to operate as a dyad, not as two individuals. And there are a lot of teachings out there that misled me for a very long time, telling me that I should be my own independent individual journeying alongside another independent individual, and that the only way that we should become united is for us to stay in our sovereignty and journey separately but together. This was a misnomer that tripped me up for years. I almost lost my existing relationship because of this misnomer. The truth is that true intimacy can only be built by letting our defenses down and by opening up a shared energy. You do actually operate as one. That means having your partner's back and taking up the slack with your partner when they're not able to do so. It means your partner's going to have your back and they're going to take up your slack when you're not able to do so. It means making decisions as a single unit. And the crux for strong women is that there can only be one leader in a decision-making unit. Sometimes there can be losing the word, collaboration. And sometimes you can't agree. So by all means, when there's a collaboration, you work with that and it's a shared sovereignty role. And when there is a clash of sovereignty, there can only be one leader. And this is the part that strong women need to yield to his leadership, because by definition, he is an alpha and he must lead. Everything that we truly want opens up to us when we step into this dynamic. Relating with a conscious alpha man forces us into opening up our feminine energies far more than any other circumstance will ever ask us to do. It forces us to let down our hypermasculinized defense mechanisms which do not serve us. It forces us to learn to heal the parts of us that can't trust and feel scared to lean on others. Being in relationship with a conscious alpha man actually molds us and shapes us into the beautiful, empowered, strong, yet feminine being that we have been trying to mold ourselves into for years. And you have no idea how deep this work goes. You can put yourself in situations where you get to express your feminine, you get to express your masculine, you can put yourselves in situations where you're polarized, but until you actually enter into a dyadic dark love relationship with a conscious alpha, you will never unearth the corners of your trauma and wounding that are keeping you from true intimacy. I had done 13 years worth of work when I met my partner, and I thought that I had cleared everything. I was super empowered, super independent. I knew where I was going in life. I checked all of the boxes. I had everything in life except for the man. And it has only been through this exceptionally transformative last 18 months, 2 years with my beloved, where I have learned all of the places where I was still rejecting, repelling, and sabotaging love in very subtle ways. And I can see now why all of my past relationships failed. Learning to relate to these type of men in this way is the end of your search for forever relating. This is the answer to your happy ever after.